Like during COVID, you worked a lot with fish worker unions, right? Uh, on the issues that they faced during the lockdown. Could you just
Yeah.
talk about that? Because we have forgotten that as a country, the kind of, you know,
4 years since, actually, exactly. Um,
and
so
we
it
need
was
to,
not so much.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, we need to remind ourselves of the kind of uh, situations
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
been. Yeah.
yeah. It was not so much with fish worker unions or small scale fish worker unions as much, because actually the interesting thing is that COVID actually shut down most of the country, and with it, most interstate and global trade. And so mechanized boats were the ones that really shut down. So small scale fish workers, as I know from Devashish and talking to him, then, fish actually came back closer to the shore. Fishers were able to supply their local markets. They had fresh fish in abundance. And even for the year after that, there was such a big relief of mechanized fishing pressure in the sea that actually there was an abundance in fishery that happened for small scale fish workers. And so we didn't do much work with small scale fish worker unions, other than the fact that where there were strict lockdowns and people couldn't go fishing, there was an complete loss of livelihood. And so providing of livelihood compensation was the main work that we tried to do. I think the main work that we did was with migrant fish workers. And so that was another part of the industry that was not known as much, that almost the entire West Coast, mechanized boats, ice plants, vending, cutting, transportation, processing plant, surimi plant, fish meal, fish oil plant, all the workers are migrant workers. And they all come from the East Coast, West Bengal, Orissa. A lot of them come from the tribal areas of Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Orissa. And all of them have, in the last 5-7 years, moved to work in this industry. Um, and a lot of them, interestingly, because of fisheries being very disconnected from land, right? Like if you're a construction worker, of course, your work is hard, but you live in a site, you know where your kirana shop is, you know where the ration shop is, you know where the chai shop is, you know where the bus stand is. A migrant fisher literally gets off the train, gets picked up by the agent, and stays on the boat for 10 months and then goes back home. Because the cycle is you come home, you offload fish, you load ice, you repair the net, and you go back to sea. And so when the lockdown happened, people just were unfamiliar with the geography of where they were. And so it was a very different experience, a very disorienting experience for migrant fish workers, especially of the fish work, of the other migrant workers, because of their disconnection to where they work. And the second thing was because of the geographies that they come from. When the lockdown happened, it wasn't that they could just go home. The only way to get back to Jharkhand or Orissa from Goa or from Karnataka is to go to Bombay, then from Bombay go to Raipur or Jharsuguda, then from Jharsuguda take a bus or a rickshaw and go to the biggest city of your district, and then take a local bus and go home. While if you're from West Bengal, not that it's easy to get home, but there are direct trains that run from Kerala to Howrah, and then you get home to Malda or South 24. Also, you are much more connected. And so it also became quite interesting for a particular group of the tribal workers, because again, unfamiliarity, unhospitable geographies of coming from, and then the caste system. Adivasis are looked upon as backward, they are looked upon as, somebody who can be easily exploited. So they were thrown out of their houses, out of their boats, they're just hanging out on the road. And it was quite bad. Like in Goa, where I was based at the moment, things were horrible. People were being chased down the road with sticks because they were looking for food. 6 people, I've helped people, the Jharkhand government, embalm the bodies of people who had died on the road and have them flown back to Jharkhand on a plane because their family wanted the bodies back. We've gone to the morgues and identified bodies. This was the worst case scenario. Obviously, it wasn't. There were people who were tied up in chains. There was one Adivasi who was tied up because he was roaming around in the village, drunk a little bit. And the villagers were like, okay, he's an Adivasi. So they just left him in the rain and tied him with chains that they used the cows overnight. And we had to go in the morning and get him out of there. So obviously the lockdown was a horrible case for a lot of people and for the migrant fish workers. And we have forgotten. Not only have we forgotten in our imagination, things have pretty much gone back to as they were. There hasn't been much change in the way working experiences of workers are in the industry. They still are quite precarious.